Hey, good afternoon, truth seekers. Well,
oh my God, yes.
The truth is very dangerous as far as a lot of people are concerned. They're very busy trying to cancel academics and cancel critics of the government, cancel opinions. They're very serious about wanting you to believe what they want you to believe. Look over here, look over there. Look how climate change is going to get us. Oh, the virus, disease X, the terrorists. Look everywhere except for what our government is doing, aiding and abetting wars without our approval. And they call it democracy, and they call these regime changes justified under the basis of giving other countries the gift of democracy. But they make a lot of money out of these wars, I can tell you that. Trillions of dollars, private money. It's like vaccines, you know, the government picks up the tab. Big Pharma gets the money. You get the bill. Same thing with the wars. And they're very afraid of the truth. When people like Julian Assange come out and reveal the truth, they're absolutely terrified that the people are going to catch on to the fact that they might not have been telling us the truth, and they might have been omitting the crucial truth, which effectively exposes their chicanery and their trickery and their swindling. They don't like people like Assange because they wake the people up. They hate the truth. They're trying to get people to believe that someone that comes out and tells the truth about all the various things they want us to believe are bad people. But the fact is, everything should be criticized. If you want to live in a country that doesn't allow opinions, that doesn't allow criticism, you're living in a dictatorship. And that's exactly what they're trying to do. It's called Marxism, cultural Marxism, dictatorship, totalitarianism. You want to live in a country like that? That's why so many people have come to this country, to get away from these terrible regimes that are thugs. And yet here we are looking at our government that supports regimes that are committing genocide, that are removing aid to people that are suffering genocide, tens of thousands of innocent people being murdered, with the complicity of the regime that calls themselves our government. This is what Julian Assange is all about, and this is why they want him in prison. They want to frighten anyone else from coming out and exposing their lies. It's got nothing to do with democracy. It's got to do with power, making money, and controlling people. You know, it's a very old saying, and it's a very true one, that if you will trade freedom for security, you will end up with neither. If you're prepared to give away your freedom for safety, you will end up with no freedom and no safety. And that is exactly what's going on with these various globalist powers, you know, in many countries that collude in creating these fake stories, like we're all going to die from catastrophic climate change. You have to expect you might be getting lied to, and that's the problem. And that's why they are worried about truth and whistleblowers And they're not about our protection. Quite the contrary. They keep us in a state of, basically, they're trying to create a state of fear domestically to get power and practice what they practice and make enemies, which doesn't make the world safer, it makes it more dangerous. So that's my opinion. Julian Assange is one of the great heroes of our time. He's taken tremendous risk to stand up for justice for all human beings and probity, honesty with Western governments. So no matter what happens, he will always be remembered as a person that was trying to bring accountability to our government. And that's the beautiful thing about government. They're never accountable for anything. They make up all sorts of fancy stories that they had to do it or they were misinformed. But the fact of the matter is, we've been lied to about these wars and these interventions. For the last 75 years, they've lied to us and lied to us and lied to us. And these are perfectly provable facts. They're doing it again. And anyone that wants to support these wars of choice needs their head read. Turn off your TV, cancel the subscription to your newspaper because it is propaganda. The system is getting so disgusting, they're starting to indoctrinate children from the age of kindergarten. This is about freedom and justice. And Assange has stood up for the justice of people in other countries, as I think we should all do. There'll come a time when we'll possibly be begging them to stand up for justice for us. It's a very, very important point. We must have free speech, we must have criticism, we must have informed medical consent. These lockdowns and everything have been a total fraud, everybody that knows it. The vaccines were not safe nor effective. So if you want to shame people for criticizing a pack of lies, you are the problem. People watch TV and they're starting to come out with this thinking that they can shame people for very honest moral choices and conversation and debate. It is at the danger. It's our safety. The only safety. Hey, good man. That's what we want. We want more of you beautiful guys. More lads. Yeah, brother.
WikiLeaks was started in 2006, so it had been going for 2 years. And in 2008, the deep state in America had announced that they were going to undermine and persecute and destroy WikiLeaks and Julian Assange and undermine the credibility that they'd already built. In 2 years of operation, WikiLeaks had established 100% truth, which they maintain to this day, 100% accuracy, and media all around the world were closely following them because it was a fantastic source of information. It was an encyclopedic assembly of global corruption. So in 2008 they thought, right, we'll destroy this guy. And by this time they'd trumped up the false. This is outrageous that Julian Assange, a man who has probably saved more women from rape, that it was revealed that not only was there no rape involved, there were no charges involved, there was no evidence, but it was completely fantasy. Ecuador put their hand up and said, we'll protect you, we'll look after you. For 7 years. With the British constabulary surrounding the Ecuadorian embassy like a siege. From our federal parliament, we've got a majority insist of the police department in exposing a pedophile network. That piece of information is not talked about deliberately. Joe Biden came out yesterday, the day before yesterday, and said, I'm considering Australia's request, because he knows it's not a request coming from one man. This is not a request coming from Anthony Albanese. This is a request coming from tens of millions of Australians who are saying, let him go. Drop the charges. We don't want to be your friend anymore. If you are going to abuse our award-winning journalist, we will not play games with you on the warfield anymore. It's over. So if you value your alliance with us, you better let him go. So Joe's decided that he's going to consider that ultimatum, because that's what it is. It's been couched in very diplomatic terms. But at the end of the day, every day they hold Julian Assange, more people, not only in Australia but all around the world, wake up to this criminality, to this attempt to destroy our fourth estate. Our fourth estate is our media. And it is not, I repeat, not what we all call the mainstream or legacy media. They are not the fourth estate. The fourth estate are true investigative journalists that expose the criminality in power so that the government fears the people and that the people do not fear the government. That is the function of the fourth estate. The fourth estate was and remains in life support as far as I'm concerned. It's in life support, and while the fourth estate is in life support, our democracy is in life support. It hangs on by a thread. I'm standing here today and you're listening to me, and you'll know if I'm not standing here one Friday, have I got sick of standing here or have I been stopped? Am I now seen as a threat? Because they're scared of people like me. They're scared of people like you. They're scared of every single one of us. Because as soon as we wake up, we're a threat to their existence. And there's 1 million of us to every one of them. They are so phenomenally outnumbered, it's ridiculous. So believe it or not, they fear us more than we fear them. And that's good. That's the way it's supposed to be. And they are like that because of Julian Assange. Julian Assange is single-handedly encouraging people like me and other investigative journalists all around the world His courage is contagious, and it's growing. Every day it grows, and every day their grip on power weakens. And already we're seeing that. We're seeing they're having problems getting young recruits to join the army, because those young recruits know that they're being used to make profits for the military-industrial complex via the international banks that both fund both sides of every conflict on earth in beyond living memory. Beyond living memory. More than 100 years. All the conflicts on earth have been funded and armed by the same people. And Julian has delivered that evidence. The truth is out. And once the truth is out, it cannot be put back and hidden. It's out there. It's like the genie. When she's out of the bottle, she's out. So their grip on power is weakening, and our strength is growing, and we've got the numbers. Oh, the other thing we've got going, by the way, is this is about right, not versus left. This is not right versus left. This is right versus wrong. There is nothing that they are doing that has anything to do with being for us, for the benefit of humanity. Nothing. We must wake up to them, and we must wake our friends up to them, and we must learn to say no, no, no. We will not comply. We will not fight your wars. As Julian has stated, all wars are started with lies. But peace can be started with the truth. Imagine truth, peace, and prosperity is getting ever closer. So I ask you all, if you do nothing else today, please sign the petition for Julian Assange. You can come and grab a leaflet from me, or you can simply Google 3 little words, Julian Assange petition. Look for the big one, Philip Adams, change.org. I just saw the figure, it's just a shade within 5,000 of 800,000 signatures. Almost, we're getting close to 1 million signatures. That petition is before the International Criminal Court in The Hague, where we will not rest when Julian is free. We are going to continue to pursue those criminals that have held him and persecuted him for 16 years. It's a very, very, very long list of people, but we know they're criminals of the state. We know they don't have our interests at heart. We know that they are bad people. And we know that society will run a lot better if they are removed from it. So please sign the petition. Join the growing throng of people around the world. As I say, just under 800,000. And help to free Julian Assange and your right to know the truth, and our ability to keep power fearful of us. unity and truth. Thank you.
I'd like to tell you a little story, folks. Back in about 1981, I got my first computer. That's 1981. That's 43 years ago, if my mathematics is still half okay. And it was a wonderfully inspiring thing, the thought that the internet could democratize information and communication, and we could get the processes of collaboration and synergy and facts from some of the leading researchers in the world, and they could put an end to all of the things that are wrong in this world, that are caused by corrupt politics, wars, started by lies. We could get access to the truth. For a long while, many websites came out on the internet, antiwar.com, dissident websites that were criticizing bad policy, something that was over and above what the mainstream media was doing, because the mainstream media omits the most important information. They tell a story which they want people to believe, but they omit the facts that would have them believing the opposite. And that is how propaganda works. But the internet gave people the ability to communicate all over the globe. You could send an email to the leading professors in the world. Many of them were doing blogs and putting up every day or two what they thought was right and wrong in the world. So we could end poverty, we could end wars, we could end underdevelopment. But gradually, control of the internet has been ramped up by vested interests, these monolithic social media outlets, which aren't really of any value whatsoever because they're so heavily censored now anyway, because they're owned by corporations, and the corporations do whatever the government wants them to do because they don't want to end up being targeted by the government in various antitrust laws or all sorts of inquiries that could have them in multi-billion-dollar lawsuits left, right and centre. So if the government wants the social media companies to censor, they censor. But the fact is there's many, many blogs and many, many websites there where they do have intelligent debate. There are journalists doing phenomenal research work, and the truth is on the internet. The internet and the blog sphere will determine who are the next government in America and Australia and everywhere else, because people have completely lost trust in the mainstream media. They turn on their TV at night. By and large, if it's anything of importance, they're getting lied to by omission. Anyways, as it happens, they've ramped up the censorship, they've ramped up the control and the silencing of dissent, really the silencing of intelligent debate, gradually, now to the point where they're bringing in the online misinformation and disinformation and harms laws. These laws are purportedly to stop child abuse. But that's the camouflage. That's the Trojan horse. If you read what's in these bills, you'll see it's about silencing what harms speech and hate speech and misinformation and disinformation. And all of these things are so entirely subjective as to who says what hate speech is. Why should hate speech be criminalized? We have to hate things that are bad. That's called morality. That's the essence of our society. Our society is built on morality. The principles of all the great philosophers and religions all come down to morality. What they're doing is they're trying to effectively silence people that speak for morality, silence people that speak the truth, because they're gradually ramping up control over everybody. If you can't see that by now, you must be deaf, dumb and blind. It's absolutely imperative that we don't let them criminalize speech. All dictatorships begin by criminalizing speech. And some of the provisions in these so-called misinformation laws are just, you can't imagine anything worse other than real dictatorships where they just imprison people or kill them for opinions. If you want to make the world a better place, we have to have free speech. You can't have scientific debate without free speech. You can't have political debate. You can't have economic debate without free speech. This is why they have Assange in prison. They are afraid of free speech. They are afraid of the people knowing what they're doing. Now they're trying to criminalize it. Where do we draw the line? Where do we draw the line? We all sit back and say, oh, don't say anything, they might come for you, you might lose your job. That's how they're doing it. They're threatening people to remove their incomes, silence them. I've even heard stories of people being debanked. The bank just says, we're not going to bank you anymore. There was a gentleman in England who, a member of Parliament, who opened up a debate in the Parliament about excess deaths of COVID, and they cancelled his car insurance. This is what they do. They're out to attack anyone that speaks the truth or that they don't agree with, that exposes what they're doing has been wrong. Don't fall for it. You have to have the guts to stand up and say, this is just wrong. It's immoral. If we lose, they try to make us believe that coming out in defense of morality is wrong, it's bad. If we lose that, what have we got? We have a liberal society, but within limits of criminal activities. The limit of actually doing real harm to someone. Not saying something they say is harmful. This is just pure bullshit. Don't fall for it. And if these politicians want to pursue this rubbish, you better make sure you vote them out. Don't vote for a party, vote for a person, an independent person who will listen to us. We've got a situation at the moment where our politicians do what the parties tell them to do, not what we do. And the parties get enormous amounts of donations. The parties are supported by the mainstream media narrative. We don't have proper debate in the Parliament. We don't even have proper debate in the universities, in academia, because they're cancelling people that are coming out and saying things that they don't, that question lies being told to us by governments and corporations. It's time for the Australian to wake up and say this has got to stop, and Assange is emblematic of all that. If they're allowed to basically charge Assange with fake charges where there's no evidence, they'll do it to you, and they'll do it to your children, and they'll take away your freedom. It's an old saying, anyone that's prepared to trade freedom for safety will end up with neither. If you think that by being safe and not standing up for human rights and liberty is going to make you safe, that's what's going to give the junta that would seek to run this country a dictatorship. And once you're living in a dictatorship, you tell me how you're going to get out of it. Ask anyone that's lived in the so-called parts of the world which are effectively dictatorships. You can give them any name you like, but they're dictatorships. They throw people in prison that say things the government doesn't like. They kill them. We're very blessed. We're probably the most free people in the world. And I think I speak for all of us here. That's why we're here, because we want to keep it that way. We cannot allow politicians to throw people in jail for political reasons. And Assange is a political prisoner. 100% political prisoner. If he'd done anything wrong, they would have charged him and they would have prosecuted him. The mere fact that they haven't done it means he hasn't broken any laws. So they've faked up some charges, just like they faked up the claims that he was a rapist and a sexual predator. Lies. They did that in order to be able to demonize him. What a dirty trick. It's called the honey trap. They get some attractive young girl to go out with a person and say he was sexually abusive or something. And then they use that to demonize the person. It's an old trick, just like the false flag attacks that they used to justify foreign wars of choice. So folks, I beseech you all to stand up for free speech. Don't be frightened in criticising anyone that would seek to silence you. Anyone that seeks to silence you will normally do it by playing the man. They'll probably say, oh, you're a communist, or you support this, or you support that. And they'll refuse to engage in civil conversation. And just remember, when they play the man, they lose the argument. It's as simple as that. It's a rhetorical trick. They invert the truth. They say, I didn't do that, you did that. These are all little tricks to swindle people and con them. So please call up your local politician. Just ring them up on the phone. Don't send them a letter because they won't respond. Don't ask for a meeting with your member of Parliament. You can ask for a meeting with your member of Parliament 100 times. And you know how many times you'll get access to talk to him? None. And that's how they run this system. They will not engage in discussion because they want to play the game of plausible deniability. Oh, I didn't know that. But they do know that. So folks, stand up for Assange because you're standing up for yourself. And you're standing up for Australia and the Australia we love, which is about our freedoms and justice and accountability. Thanks very much. Thank you, sir.
I've seen it on.
Welcome to the 229th week of Julian Assange Sydney Town Hall gatherings. It was the 11th of April, yesterday, 5 years ago in 2019, at 9:45 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time. Julian Assange was abducted as an Ecuadorian citizen from Ecuadorian territory in London by the Metropolitan Police. A gross, unjust, criminal action in broad daylight, covered by the mainstream media. Outrageous. Julian Assange is completely innocent. All honest people will benefit when he is free. It's important for honest people to stand together in unity and help to free Julian Assange, the greatest journalist of the 21st century. We need to resist being influenced by narratives that are controlled by the parasite class. The narrative that the freedom of Julian Assange depends on the discretion of the President of the United States of America is a narrative that serves the parasite class. It's a narrative that wrongly suggests that supreme power resides in the US government. It is a narrative that wrongly suggests that Julian's freedom lies outside of our control. It is a narrative that underestimates the power of honest men and women uniting through truth to rise up and free the greatest journalist of the 21st century. Freeing Julian Assange requires our absolute unity and determination, the same absolute unity and determination that will defeat the parasite class and the corruption that goes with it. This week, major parasite class media reported Joe Biden is, quote, considering, unquote, dropping the case against Julian Assange. The story was carried by the BBC, the New York Times, Sky News, the Sydney Morning Herald, just to name a few of these. They are not media outlets, they are propagandists. We need to ask ourselves why this piece of reporting is being pushed so hard by the parasite class media when they have kept so very quiet about Julian Assange to his great detriment. We need to consider whether the story provides some kind of propaganda function. Many people appear to see the story as a reason for hope that Julian may soon be released from prison. The parasite class may want to signal that it intends to cease its persecution of Julian, but it could more easily be a strategy to draw people's focus of attention to sources of propaganda which control the narrative on behalf of the parasite class. The parasite class does not operate out of compassion. Julian's 13, or some would say 16, years of persecution and psychological torture, as outlined by Niels Meltzer, shows us that. If we place our focus on the narratives of the parasite class, we take our focus off the narratives of what we need to do to free Julian. The best way we can help Julian Assange is to develop and spread narratives that encourage the unity of honest men and women. We need more men and women actively helping to free Julian Assange. Excessive attention given to narratives generated for the propaganda purposes of the parasite class undermines our unity and momentum. We need to remember we are being ruled by criminals who lie, cheat, and steal. We must learn not to be deceived every time they attempt to control the narrative. We can control the narrative with truth and unity. Spread the truth and help free the greatest journalist of the 21st century. Free, free Julian Assange. Free, free Julian Assange. Free, free Julian Assange. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I think the good news is that the mainstream media have trying to get the attention of the people. But the bad news is that they are getting the attention of the people. But the good news is they're trying. It means that we're making progress. It suggests they're trying to look like they're doing something. Which means that they realise they need to look like they're doing something.
Well, we're on the eve of nuclear Armageddon.
Yeah. It's also interesting how it came on the eve of his arrest.
Yes, I'm a proud member of the Media, Entertainment and Arts Alliance, which has the journalists and actors, I'm on the actors side, joined together.
Why is that significant to Julian Assange?
Because journalists support journalists.
Because that's what Julian
Yes.
Assange is a member of.
Yes. Well, all
it.
journalists
Say
around the world support Julian Assange. I mean, you're not a journalist if you don't support him, because it's your own life, it's your own job. I mean, you had about 140 journalists being killed in Gaza alone.
I think the journalists support him.
Yes.
It's the people that the journalists work for that don't.
They are the
support.
ones that stop them.
Yeah.
That's why I'm so proud of Karyn on News Radio and Thomas Already morning show when she got in at the end, said free Julian Assange. And I said, yeah, that's why I put my t-shirt on.
Yes, it would be a whole lot easier if Joe Biden came out and said, you know what, we are dropping this case. It's just not worth it any longer.
Yeah, it hasn't quite happened, but at least, 3 words overnight. So I guess we'll see what happens. But Karyn, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it.
My pleasure, Thomas. Free Julian Assange.
Good on you. Karyn Percy is the media section president of the Media, Entertainment and Arts Alliance.
I love the interview. He said something like, well, is Julian really a journalist? He does journalism, but is he a journalist? And she says, you've answered this question yourself.
Work on it, mate.
Thank you.
Got it.
We are all Assange.